It is Friday and we are nearing the end of the week. Welcome to today's broadcast where we catch up with the news making headlines across Namibia and expanding to the rest of the continent and the globe. In today's news, Local Business Association opposes operation of Namibian green schemes by international investors. Communities feel the pinch of inflated food and fuel prices. It is a Friday, and if you don't have any plans, then Chill's Michael Kayunde highlights some of the events to look out for on the entertainment front. We also take a look at the news headlining today's daily newspapers, bring you sports news and international headlines, this and more in today's broadcast. My name is Diana Master, and this is NMH at 1. In today's midday news update, the verdict on the application for bail by 6 fish rot accused, which was originally set to take place this morning, has been postponed to 2 o'clock this afternoon. Judge Shafimana Uitele will deliver his verdict on James Hatuikulipi, Saki Shangala, Mike Ngipunya, Pius Mwatelulo, Otniel Shudifonya, and Philippus Mwapopi. After the break, we will come back with our visual news. Stay tuned.
Have you received a loan from NSFAF? NSFAF loan is the same as any other loan. It must be paid and settled. NSFAF has a set of guidelines on how you can repay your loan and become debt-free. Therefore, it is important that you, a former beneficiary and a responsible Namibian, show your patriotism by helping pay back your loan and thus helping NSFAF become a revolving fund for the benefit of future potential students. By failing to pay back your NSFAF loan, you risk being blacklisted or having a court order against you. So arrange with the fund to pay back your loan today. For more information on how you can repay your loan, visit our website at www.nasfaf.na or visit our Facebook page or Twitter. Do the right thing and hashtag #paybackthemoney.
Welcome back. Getting into today's visual news clip. The Namibia Local Business Association condemned government's intention to offer foreign or international investors to operate Namibian green schemes. Naloba President Erastus Chiko Shapumba says capable Namibians should be given a chance to run the schemes. Chuyemo Haidula was there. Let's take a look.
During Dubai Expo 2020, Namibia Minister of Agriculture, Water and Land Reform, Honorable Mr. Kalishnek presented the government intention to lease 11 green schemes through request for proposal to foreign investors, to international investors by June and July of this year. The Minister of Agriculture, Water and Land Reform has presented that the government has got an intention to lease 11 green schemes within the Republic of Namibia. In light of the above, our association, Namibia Local Business Association, NALOBA, hereby wish to strongly condemn and stop this government intention. We would like the government to consider putting a full stop to such an intention. This opportunity, the opportunity to operate all this green scheme must be given or presented immediately to the Namibian local community through NALOBA. In other words, the opportunity that are presented by the minister must be presented to the local business community through NALOBA to operate this scheme, work in Namibia. But we want foreign investors who are coming to do what Namibia cannot do. We want foreign investors who are coming to do specialized things that we cannot do. What is that we cannot do with plowing field and agricultural schemes? Namibians, businessmen and women have got capacity, capability, the know-how, the skill, financial muscles to operate these schemes.
Moving right on over, Rundu resident Cecilia Iyambo spoke to Kenya Kambowe about how the increase in food and fuel prices have affected her livelihood and those in her community. Let's take a look.
Ms. Iyambo, can you just tell us how the increase in food prices as well as the fuel has impacted your livelihood as well as those in your community that you know of?
It has affected our livelihoods negatively, I must say, because we were not ready. Everything just started increasing at the same time, the food, the fuel, everything. I mean, we were just recovering from the effects of COVID-19, and then this happens. So it really caught a lot of us off guard, especially for myself. And I can only imagine for those now who are not employed, especially in the community where I live, for them it must be even more severe, because now they cannot get as much as they used to from the grant that they usually used to get, because now the food is expensive, of course. But again, I think there's an opportunity in these times. This is now when we as Namibians should now start producing our own food, because clearly these times are not favorable for all of us. But I believe if we start growing our own food, even if it's just a backyard garden, I think that will help us a lot.
Okay, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Now, if planets are your thing, then get your telescope ready for the Celestial Parade currently ongoing, which started on the 28th of March, with so much more to come. Yolanda Nell reports.
If astrology is your thing, then you need to listen up, because 5 planets, an asteroid and a comet are going to align, and here's how you can see the celestial parade. On the 1st of April, you will be able to see the planetary belt. You'll see a roughly identical configuration like Orion's belt, but it is formed by Mars, Saturn and Venus. On Tuesday, the 5th of April, it will be the conjunction of Mars and Saturn. The pair will be close enough to fit within the field of view of a telescope, but will also be visible to the naked eye. After the 5th of April, the angular separation between Mars and Saturn will increase, with Saturn gaining altitude in the dawn sky. Jupiter will start emerging from behind the Sun in these 2 weeks and become an early morning object. Between 16 and 24 April will be a good week to see the 5 planets align. Make sure to download the Space app to help you navigate what you want to see in the sky.
Definitely sounds like something that's going to be out of this world. If you're wondering what's happening on the weekend, on the entertainment front this weekend, check out what Chill's Michael Kayunde recommends.
Hello NMH at 1 viewers, my name is Michael Kayunde, back on your TV screens to give you a lowdown of some of the events taking place this weekend. To begin with, you can catch Chill Sessions tonight on Namibian Sun's Facebook page at 1900. That's of course the show where we get to take you in and around the country, showcasing you the latest music videos that are trending for the week. Moving on, you can catch Shana's single release party tonight happening at the Catch. It's going to be hosted by Paul the Prince, and on the lineup we have the Slaughterhouse Crew, we have Khadija and more. And finally, King Tidi will be celebrating his birthday tomorrow at Club Experience. He will also be supported by Yeezer as well as Aser Deep. So if you are a King Tidi fan, the dog Mshasho, tomorrow Experience is the place to be. Until next time, from me, Michael, that is all you have to know that is happening this weekend. It's bye-bye.
Something to look forward to indeed. When we return, we will be taking a sneak peek inside Namibia's daily print publications. But first, a quick ad break. Thank you for staying with NMH at 1. We now look at what the lead stories are in Namibia's daily newspapers. According to Namibian Sun, Brave Warriors forward Sadni Urichob is among dozens of people left licking their wounds at the hands of controversial self-styled businessman Simon Kapenda, who allegedly received the footballers $215,000 Namibian for a property that was never delivered since 2016. Urichob, who plies his trade in Thailand and has 7 international goals for Namibia, paid the money through an agent who herself has now turned against the controversial dealer. Kapenda allegedly received hundreds of thousands of dollars from at least 25 buyers, including several public personalities, whom he sold land on the outskirts of Windhoek that apparently does not belong to him. Still, with the Namibian Sun, it reports that 5 prisoners, each serving a term of more than 3 decades for serious crimes committed 20 or more years ago, are making an urgent application to the High Court for their release on parole. Rahimo Ephraim Haradoeb, Veiko Shalimba, Antoni Venasi, David Samaseb, and Simon Joseph Kankondi filed the urgent application on 8 March, asking the court to order the Safety and Security Commissioner and prison authorities to consider them for release on parole after they served half of their sentences. Moving over to the Republican, the total remuneration of Namibian workers has shrunk by almost $1 billion Namibian in both 2020 and 2021. Data released by the Namibian Statistics Agency yesterday shows that employees were paid about $80.37 billion Namibian and $80.29 billion Namibian in total in 2020 and 2021 respectively. In 2019, total compensation amounted to almost $81.25 billion Namibian. The figures show Namibia's real gross national income per capita in 2021 was $54,841 Namibian, about 2% less than the previous year and the lowest in at least 9 years. Still in the Republican, the national railway state-owned enterprise TransNamib has obtained $2.6 billion Namibian in funding from the Development Bank of Southern Africa and the Development Bank of Namibia. This amount will be repayable over 18 years with a 3-year grace period. The interest rate and other finer details are still being negotiated. Now, according to Allgemeine Zeitung, petrol attendant Laurentius Katambo from Karibib testified that he saw murder-accused Ernst Lichtenstrasser in Karibib on 16 April 2019, a day after the killing of Namibian Institute of Mining and Technology bosses Eckhard Miller and Heinz Hemo Helwig. Lichtenstrasser asked to use Katambo's phone to call his wife before he was arrested later that day. He gave this testimony in the High Court this week as trial in the matter continues. AZ also reports that observers and experts have been complaining about the acute lack of education in the field of sustainable use at all levels for years and have often pointed out the importance of an improved level of education among officials and authorities. The well-known political scientist Professor Andre Dupesani has already emphasized a few years ago during an IPPR lecture that it was time that politicians and civil servants did not expect themselves to know everything, but instead relied on contributions from specialists would leave so that they could come to a balanced decision. We will now take a quick ad break and return with more news headlining Namibia's newspapers. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Continuing with our newspaper review, the Namibian reports that a prominent lodge operator says a proposal to construct a motor and railway transport system in the pristine Namib desert ecosystem could threaten the environment and create a monopoly for businessman Laban Kandume. The area in question is the renowned Sossusvlei, which offers landmarks with its red dunes, white salt pan and the Dead Vlei. Situated in the western part of Hardap region in the Namib-Naukluft National Park, the state-owned Namibia Wildlife Resorts has warned that Sossusvlei is part of the Namib Sand Sea, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and that its natural beauty and simplicity of the environment must be preserved. According to the Namibian Grootfontein Mayor Talita Garises has told Government and Rural Development Minister Erastus Uthoni to go to court if he believes the Grootfontein CEO Kisco Sinvula was not procedurally suspended. Garises said this in a 6-page letter to Uthoni yesterday. Sinvula was suspended on allegations of maladministration last week. However, he maintains that his suspension was not done in accordance with the law. Moving over to New Era, a report that a shocker of fuel price increase was announced yesterday that is said to have a massive ripple effect on the prices of goods and services. This as the Mines and Energy Ministry is still consulting with the Finance Ministry on the possible temporary suspension of fuel levies and taxes that account for up to 45% of the cost of every litre of fuel. State organs which benefit from these levies are also part of the ongoing consultations that are expected to be completed by the end of April. Still in the New Era, fraud-accused former judicial officer Walter Ruiz Mostet is adamant his arrest and continued detention are unlawful. Mostet made his first court appearance in the Windhoek Regional Court for his fraud case yesterday after he was re-arrested on the 24th of March while trying to get to Namibia from South Africa via the Noordoever border post. During the appearance before Magistrate Victor Nyazo, Mostet once more argued that his first arrest in May 2021 was illegal as his warrant of arrest was not signed by a magistrate as required by law. Finally, in economic news, Market Watch reports that Zimbabwe has begun repossessing idle land from black farmers who benefited from controversial land reforms 2 decades ago, Agriculture Minister Anxious Masuka said this week. People whose farmland is lying unused and those who own multiple farms will lose land, he said. The land will be given to aspiring farmers from a waiting list left from earlier rounds of land reform, he said. Sticking around with economic news, when we come back, NAMFISA has taken up the task to root out market conduct malpractices in the financial services sector. This and more stories from the world of economics. When we return, stay tuned. Let's take a look at the economic news. Namibia Financial Institutions Supervisory Authority's Chief Executive Kenneth Matomola said the regulator is hard at work to ensure that they root out market conduct malpractices. According to NAMFISA, the regulator received various complaints from consumers of financial services during the October to December 2021 period. Within this period, at least 1.9 million Namibian dollars has been returned into consumers' pockets. These complaints were against the micro-lending and credit agreements, long and short-term insurance, and retirement fund sectors. The regulator said the complaints were broadly related to wrongful deductions, non-payment of motor vehicle claims, unpayment pension benefits, non-payment of beneficiary benefits, and non-payment of funeral benefits. The chief executive said any aggrieved consumer can still lodge a complaint against non-bank financial institutions or financial intermediaries with them. The Democratic Republic of Congo's parliament on Wednesday voted to remove Economy Minister Jean-Marie Kalumba from his post, blaming him for the soaring price of basic goods and mismanagement of the fishing industry, among other issues. The minister had 48 hours to present his resignation following the vote of no confidence. The motion signed by lawmakers laid out a raft of complaints, including lack of a policy to support local fishermen and frequent gas shortages driving up transport prices. Congo is Africa's top producer of copper and the world's leading miner of the battery metal cobalt, but remains one of the world's poorest and least developed countries. The government is expected to announce new measures this week to deal with the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic and the Russia-Ukraine conflict on the economy. We now take a look at the economic indicators. The Namibian dollar has gone up in value against these four major currencies. Capricorn Investment Group stock prices have gone up by 0.1%. Local index closed 0.22% lower, while overall index is up by 1.17%. Brent crude oil is down 4.85%, while copper is down by 0.52%. These other commodities are up in value. We return with news from Nigeria, where 5 bodies from the 20 women and children fleeing armed gang violence in central Nigeria have been found. This was after the boat they were traveling in capsized. Stick around for the full story after the break. Welcome back. We now take a look at the latest news in our neighboring countries and later on extend to the rest of the globe. Starting off with our first story, 5 more bodies of the victims of a boat accident involving women and children fleeing armed gang violence in central Nigeria have been found. Now a total of 13 people have been confirmed dead in the boat tragedy, 10 of them children. The victims from the village of Kalgogo in Niger State were fleeing a deadly attack by gunmen on their community on Tuesday when their boat capsized on a major river. Officials said the boat carrying dozens of people was weak and overloaded. Angola yesterday announced the suspension of salaries of striking doctors who represent the vast majority of the profession in the country and have been demanding better working conditions for 10 days. We will not pay the salaries of the strikers, said Labour Minister Teresa Diaz at a press conference. Most of the country's approximately 5,600 doctors joined the movement last week, but some are providing essential services. The doctors' union called the strike after 20 children died in a single day at a pediatric hospital in the capital, Luanda. The deaths were caused by a shortage of medicines and medical equipment, according to the organization's president, Adriano Manuel, who was fired for raising the alarm. Doctors denounce hospitals in lack of material, medicines, and accuse the government of building new establishments without providing staff. Moving on, the number of out-of-school children in South Africa tripled from 250,000 to 750,000 between March 2020 and July 2021, a new UNICEF report says. The report added in Malawi, the dropout rate among girls in secondary education increased by 48%, and in Kenya, of a pooled sample of 4,000 adolescents aged 10 to 19 years, 16% of girls and 8% of boys did not return when schools reopened after COVID-19 lockdowns. In Liberia, 43% of pupils did not go back to school, while in Uganda, 10% in both primary and secondary school dropped out. As such, the report said educational gains have been reversed in most sub-Saharan countries due to lockdowns, and the current pace of learning is slow. The report also noted younger pupils in grades 1 to 3 were the most affected, and the ripple effect would be felt later in their learning lives. We now move on to international news. Reports which question democracy in Hong Kong have been rebuked with fury by the country, which described the accusations as unfounded and ridiculous. Stick around for the full story. Thank you for staying with NMH at 1. We now take a look at the international news. Hong Kong has responded with fury over what it described as unfounded and ridiculous allegations in key reports from the United Kingdom and the United States that said the territory's democratic rights and freedoms were continuing to deteriorate. A 6-monthly update released by the UK said that alternative voices in Hong Kong's executive legislature, civil society and media had been all but extinguished. The US reached a similar conclusion in its report covering the 12 months from March 2021. Chinese authorities took actions that eliminated the ability of Hong Kong's pro-democracy opposition to play a meaningful role in the city's governance and effectively criminalized peaceful political expression critical of the central and local governments, it said. The Hong Kong government quickly rejected the assessments, stating that Hong Kong continued to enjoy a high degree of autonomy under the one country, two systems that was adopted on its return to Chinese rule. Russian President Vladimir Putin threatened to stop sending gas to Europe if countries Russia designated as unfriendly don't pay in rubles. If unfriendly countries do not pay in rubles from April 1st, we will consider this a default on gas contracts, in which case existing contracts will be stopped, Putin said after signing a decree, according to Russian state news outlet RIA Novosti. The list of unfriendly countries which received the designation from Russia in response to widespread condemnation of its war against Ukraine includes the US, UK, and European Union countries. According to the US Energy Information Association, Russia is the largest gas exporting country in the world. Nearly half of its exports go to European countries. US President Joe Biden announced earlier in March that the US would ban Russian energy imports, which includes oil and natural gas, amid a slew of harsh economic sanctions. We now move over to sports news. Stiff competition is expected at the Senior National Athletics Championships, which started today. More on this when we return.
Choose your flex package with Paratus today. Sign up for ultra-fast fiber with the convenience of mobile LTE. That's 2 products in one bundle. It's new, it's one bill, and you can stay connected in more than one location.
For more information, visit paratus.africa/NA.
Always prepared. Paratus.
Let's take a look at our sports news. Stiff competition is expected at the Senior National Athletics Championships, which started today at the Independence Stadium in Windhoek. Close to 250 athletes from the country will converge today and tomorrow. Chairman of the newly appointed FIFA Normalization Committee for the Namibia Football Association, Bezi Uirab, yesterday said they will waste little time in putting shoulder to wheel in their new assignment, saying their first meeting is scheduled for Monday. Next up, all-conquering MTC Namibia Netball Premier League title holders Namibian Correctional Service will be out to preserve their unbeaten start in Walvis Bay this weekend. Australian boxing sensation George Kambosos will face off American star Devin Haney in Melbourne. This and more stories from the international sports scene when we return. Stay tuned. Now let's take a look at the international sports scene, starting off with the World Cup. The draw for this year's World Cup takes place in the shadow of Doha's skyscrapers later Friday, with the focus on the actual football after a build-up dominated by the off-field issues surrounding the awarding of the tournament. Australian boxing sensation George Kambosos will face American star Devin Haney in Melbourne in June for the undisputed lightweight championship of the world, organizers said on Friday. Next up, a rising French star Leon Marchand's stellar performance in the 400-meter individual medley at the San Antonio Pro Swim ended in disappointment on Thursday when he was disqualified for an illegal turn. Now, when we come back, we will return with the highlights. Stay tuned.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, welcome to another exciting edition.
Welcome back to NMH at 1. Now, if you've just joined us, here are your news highlights. The verdict on the application for bail by 6 fish rot accused, which was originally set to take place this morning, has been postponed to 2 o'clock this afternoon. Judge Shafimana Uweitele will deliver his verdict on James Hatuikulipi, Saki Shangala, Mike Ngipunya, Pius Mwatelulo, Otniel Shudifonya, and Philippus Mwapopi. 5 more bodies of the victims of a boat accident involving women and children fleeing armed gang violence in central Nigeria have been found. Stiff competition is expected at the Senior National Athletics Championships, which started today at the Independence Stadium in Windhoek. Close to 250 athletes from the country will converge today and tomorrow. The draw for this year's World Cup takes place in the shadow of Doha's skyscrapers later Friday, with the focus on the actual football after a build-up dominated by the off-field issues surrounding the awarding of the tournament. Those have been your highlights, and with that, we have come to the end of the show. Thank you for staying with NMH at 1 and spending your lunch hour with me, Diana Master. Remember to tune in Monday through to Friday at 1 p.m. as we take you through the latest happenings in Namibia and beyond. But until then, here's a compilation of news from across the regions in Namibia. From me and the rest of the team, have a lovely weekend.
Good day, viewers. Welcome to another episode of Regional Review for the Friday Regional Recap. My name is Tunole Mongoba, and I will be your host for this wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day as we go through what transpired in all parts of the Namibian regions and also having a look at the different discussions that our correspondent journalists in different regions have come up with. Stay tuned. Before we get into our news segment, we would like to prepared a short NMH promo day calendar as we celebrate and commemorate World National Fun Day. So on this special day, it's all about taking ideas and seeing what people are getting up to have fun. So please have a look at this video that NMH has prepared. For our first story, we are going all the way to the south, where our correspondent Monique Adams prepared a short story on the Gremomite graphic mine, which donated school uniforms and $1 million to the J.S. Herrero Primary School to renovate the school. Quises is in the Berseba community. Here's Monique Adams with more.
On the 29th of March, the Gratomic graphite mine went to the J.S. Herrero Primary School, which is in the Berseba constituency of the little town Xoses, and they donated school uniforms to the primary school. Apart from donating school uniforms, the general manager announced that they will be giving the school $1 million Namibian dollars to renovate the school. Here are a few moments that were captured.
On behalf of Gratomic Graphite, we would like to thank Mrs. Tsanes for the honor and the privilege for this opportunity. The opportunity to be a part of these children's lives, the community of Xoses. We believe that what we invest in our youth today, we will reap as a country and as a community tomorrow. It is really Gratomic's core principle to invest in our community and in our country. Therefore, it's my privilege to publicly announce today that Gratomic has pledged $1 million Namibian dollars to the repairs and improvement of J.S. Herrero School.
second story, we are all the way in Otsotsonjupa region, where our correspondent Enzo Amwele tells us that the Namibia's biggest exporter of prime beef, the Meatco Corporation of Namibia, Meatco, engaged regional governors on the 29th of March 2022 in Otjiwarongo. According to Meatco Chief Executive Officer Mwalima Mushubangiji, the purpose of the high-level engagement was to enhance sectoral cohesion and industry collaboration to realize the national plan and the national aspirations for inclusive development and shared prosperity in line with Vision 2030.
Namibia's biggest prime exporter of beef, Meatco, held a governor's engagement in Otjiwarongo on the 29th of March 2022. According to the CEO of Meatco, Mwilima Mushokampaji, said that the engagement was to create collaboration within the sectors. He also added that Meatco is a very important asset and therefore needs government assistance for it to be successful.
Thank you. One of Meatco's responsibility is to coordinate in the industry. So we engage with the farmers upstream, who are suppliers of our raw material. We do have stakeholders meetings with the banks. We do have stakeholders meetings with the employees. We meet with the communal farmers south of the BCF. We meet with the northern of the communal areas. These are key stakeholders in executing our competitive strategy. So it's very critical that they understand the newly revamped Meatco and what would be their role. So it was vital to make sure that the regional governors who have been asking to make sure that they engage to understand the strategies in terms of where we are taking Namibia's livestock industry. So we had to engage them to get their inputs as well, to solicit their views, but at the same time to make sure that as a sector we are pulling in the right direction. And what came out very important is the fact that we are in the process to build a more competitive, more sustainable, and a more profitable livestock industry. I mean, we have got climate change, we had droughts, we have got disease outbreaks. So we needed to beef up our dynamic capabilities as a state-owned enterprise to make sure that we are able to remain afloat. The meeting went very well. It was highly appreciated. Some of the critical issues that we discussed was really the future of the red line. The Namibia we are building that is more inclusive, in which all farmers in the country, they need to have the domestic market, they need to have the African market through the EFTA agreements that was signed last year in January. We need to make sure that through other measures such as commodity-based trade, how can we make sure that Namibia exports more than it imports, so that we have got a positive trade balance. So we need to see more primary production, we need to see more agro-processing in the country, so that we basically transform the agriculture sector from being a net exporter of unprocessed raw materials to being a net exporter of value-added products. That way you are able to create more employment in the country, you are able to generate more foreign exchange earnings in the country, you are able to shrink the unhygienic wealth gulf that we have as a country. So these were the critical issues that we were brainstorming with the governors and the chief regional officers. The meeting was very great, it went very well, and we look forward for more future engagements with our stakeholders.
A group consisting of mostly women held a demonstration on the 24th of March at Ocho and handed over a petition to the station commander Gideon Chiheha after the brutal murder of Duffy Hans, who was 30 years old a week ago. The group demanded that the suspect, Kip Kumaseb, who delivered Hans' body to her mother in a wheelbarrow, should remain behind bars. The demonstrators also urged the police in Ocho to be more present in informal settlements as crimes were on the rise. Here's Enzo Amwele with more.
A group consisting of mostly women in Ocho held a demonstration on the 24th of March 2022. This is after the brutal murder of Duffy Hannes, whose body was delivered by her boyfriend in a wheelbarrow to the mother's house. The group demonstrated against the release of the culprit, who is Pete Kamusep, and they also urged the police officers to be very present in the informal settlements in Ocho as crime is on the rise.
Come on,
women, rape and killing of women. Enough is enough. As women who regard ourselves as voiceless women, we want to bring the following under your attention. We are the mothers, daughters, sisters of all men. This statement must be well understood by some men who maybe regard themselves as being born by something else rather than women, who show disrespect, mannerlessness, and rudeness to their mothers and go around killing women, their mothers, ruthlessly, cruelly, heartlessly, brutally, mercilessly. The following are the concerns which have reached unacceptable level in the society of Ocho. Women and our beloved daughters are being raped and killed by some merciless men within our society. Men who seem not to have ears to listen to these songs which are being sung almost every day in the community, social media, radios, etc. We experience on a daily basis stealing, housebreaking, use of drugs, alcohol abuse, which lead to criminal activities. We cannot assist each other when this happens because it's dark in our location. Help and needed support to women is not visible, even from the police, and we feel abandoned. Which is the reason why women are killed like dogs. We don't receive the support that we need to get in our free country, Namibia. As women, we cannot stay freely and move around freely in our free beloved Namibia. We start to get feeling not to send our kids, especially girls, to schools, as it becomes dark for them to walk down to school, and even women are afraid to go to work in early hours of the morning, especially in winter as it is dark.
Taking a look at the weather from the north to the south, Ongwediva is mostly cloudy, but by Sunday it will be sunny and uncomfortably humid until at least Wednesday. Rundu is partly sunny and beautiful, with humidity picking up from Monday. Some showers are expected at Otjiwarongo over the next 2 days, whereafter it'll clear. Mariental can expect some rain over the weekend, with mostly sunny and mild conditions thereafter. Karasburg is sunny and very hot, with patchy clouds and cooler weather expected on Sunday.
That's all that we had for you today, folks. From myself, Tunole Mongoba, and the rest of the My Zone, NMH, and Regional Review team, it is goodbye. Let us see you next week for another insightful episode. Goodbye.